We need a whole pod on Brooks versus Bryson. LOL. I think we can talk about that in the same context as we can talk about the great golf ratings from the weekend, because golf did very well this weekend. F1 did pretty well if you combine their ESPN2 and their ABC rating. I think it might have been over 1 million viewers. What was the number on Sunday's PGA Championship?
Peaked at 13 million, which is like an NFL number. I think it was pretty steady at the high sixes, which the Laker game did 4.
Which is, yeah, I mean.
The Knicks game did 3 that was after the PGA. To me, that 3 was like, damn, I thought the Knicks would do like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees, when they're in the playoffs, does a lot, right? I mean, I think the Yankees, when you put them on ESPN on Sunday night, does a couple million. So I thought the Knicks number, now they were a little out of nowhere, but still was more alarming than the Laker number.
Warriors would have done a bigger number in that spot.
I agree. Now, like, as someone, I'm not going to pump my chest out because it was a historic moment with Phil, right? If it was Louis versus Brooks and Phil had missed the cut, it would not have peaked at 13 million and averaged high sixes, right? You agree?
Mm-hmm.
But if one thing golf has shown, what would rattle me if I was like Adam Silver or baseball or these other things, Tiger Woods we saw that picture that went viral, which is cool. Clearly he was going to watch a soccer game with, maybe Charlie was in it, and the kid with cancer, and Tiger's on crutches, right? Like still like a long time removed, and the
with
leg,
like the full leg sleeve. It's
Alex right? So like you want, like, Tiger had nothing to do with this. To me, you could always sound like, oh, Tiger Woods outrated us. Like, what are we gonna do, right? And you tip your hat. Phil's outrating you, like that's. And I do think the power of golf. I've been saying for a while, more people are playing than ever. That's not even arguable. Anyone that plays any just random public golf knows when they go to get a tee time, the places are packed consistently now for a year.
Well, remember last year during the PGA Championship, one of the stories was that a lot of the 20 pros, a lot of them had not been able to practice because they've been so busy actually working at their courses that are so busy.
Oh, like the Brad Merrick types.
Yeah, I remember one of the guys had played like 3 practice rounds to get ready for the PGA Championship because he was too busy running his course.
Yeah. So
that's been going strong for a year.
The other thing, and I've been beating this drum for a long time, is that gambling in golf, while hard, well, it's hard if you just pick winners, which is probably it's safer to pick top 10s and matchups and probably attack it differently than I do. But you and I have been in the fantasy game now for about a year, golf fantasy. You and I are not normal fantasy players. We never played in high school, in college. I'm not part of leagues with friends. Like, I didn't do that. You aspired to call the games. I aspired to work in the games. I always thought fantasy was stupid. Then I started playing fantasy golf, and I was like, this is freaking sweet. And we've had a lot of people that have got in. They're like, I don't even like golf, and I do, and it's pretty fun. And so fantasy really works for golf. Gambling. Like when a guy withdraws or whatever, there is somewhat random, but for the most part, you gamble on a guy, he's playing in the tournament. The other day, I've been saying this a while in basketball, they've battled this rest thing for a while, but they also battle, the NFL has by far the best transparency with injuries. That you are rarely like, where is so-and-so on game day? Like, you have an idea going in. Worst case, you're like, well, they're going to work him out before the game. You know what you're getting. Donovan Mitchell, said he was going to play, he was going to play, and then they call him right before the game, and he's out. Like, that never happens in football. You can't gamble on basketball when shenanigans are happening like that. Golf has so many things that are built in that are like football. Plus, when you get a big event, like their majors, like the Players, like the Ryder Cup will be, it's a big event. Like, there's urgency. There's not much urgency to the PGA Championship. Right now, some of the tournaments that I may watch and most people won't, there isn't. But there are 6 or 7 big events feel pretty freaking big, right? And if they get the right players in the mix Saturday and Sunday, their room for growth as a sport is really, really high, I think.
It's tough. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I do think the Phil thing's kind of an outlier. Phil is kind of Tiger-esque. If Phil was 22 or 24, 20, if they had done that number with Colin Morikawa winning, that would be like.
But I said that.
Mind-blowing.
I'm acknowledging.
I know you are. I'm just saying. I do think Phil is closer to Tiger.
Well, he was Tiger's rival,
and he's been in the sport 30 years.
Yeah,
30 years. I mean, you can build up just a lot of people that casually know you over 30 years. So I do think that's pretty unique. But still, the NBA should be able to compete with that. They've got some. They should be able to. And I've said this for several years now. I think their biggest problem is their regular. There was no buildup to their postseason because their regular season just doesn't matter anymore, and to a large degree, it's become non-competitive over the last several years. And part of that is rest. So that's a major element. I think Steph would be we talked about this the other day, can cover some of that stuff up because he is, I think, the number one TV product the NBA has, and so that hurts. But this is where I go back to golf, and this is why these things are connected. Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka have an actual real rivalry, driven more by Brooks than by Bryson.
Bryson talked some shit. I think last year after Corona said he only has a 2-pack, and then Brooks showed the trophies, and then Brooks said he was on steroids.
No, he's not an innocent bystander. There's no question. But I think Brooks kind of keeps bringing it up. That interview that came out, it's funny. We talked about it with Julio. Did Julio know he was on the air? Brooks kind of at the end of his things. What was said was, we're going to laugh back at the compound of that one. And Brooks is like, yeah, it's fine with me, or whatever he said. And some people are taking that to mean that Brooks was saying, yeah, put it on the air. I don't care. I don't think Brooks would, even if Brooks wasn't saying that, I don't think he would care about that being out. But I know this. I saw early the joke was like, shout out to the intern who released that. Like, intern? That's probably commissioner of golf that released that piece of video because it's...
Who owns the Golf Channel?
Oh, exactly. So, golf... Well, does the tour own it or the?
Yeah, I think they're heavily. Yeah, I think it's partners, but they're involved. They control it.
It's so good for the sport. The beauty of golf is the beauty of any individual sport, of which there are not many major individual sports, is that guys never change teams. There's no too much player movement. It's irrelevant. You just root for the guy. So, like you said this to me when we were texting this morning. How do you not, and somebody said this in the chat, like, how do you not pair these guys? Oh, actually, somebody asked the question. Todd on YouTube said, how do they pair golfers for an event? After seeing Brooks's reaction, how do you not pair these guys for the next PGA event?
They can do whatever they want. Yeah, I mean, they choose main groups, and that's why the star players play with each other. They're called feature groups. Now, I know the rankings might not say this. Based on last weekend, these are the two best American players. And really, there's 5 American players to me that really matter. Brooks, Bryson, DJ, JT. I mean, I think Xander gets talked about like that. I don't know.
Well,
but
it matters how.
I'm just saying, if you're just picking like a top 5 for the Ryder Cup.
Oh, for the Ryder Cup, okay.
Like,
because I was going to say Patrick Reed matters in terms of just like he's kind of a character figure.
He's in the group too, and there are a lot of Tony Finau. There are other American guys, but I'm just saying, like, I would say DJ, JT, Brooks, and Bryson are like our star 4 American guys. Like, just they're the Rory, the Rahm, internet. Like, they are just the dudes. Now that Phil and Tiger are kind of done, and that older crew. The problem is going to be this, because I think it's insane if you don't pair them together. They're not going to want to play together.
No, they're not.
And the U.S. Open, for example, at Torrey Pines, Bryson's the defending champ. Brooks won it twice, right? I think it's 17 and 18. And I forget who. Gary Woodland won it in 19 at the Pebble, and then Bryson won it last year. There's no chance that if they have any say, and it's a players-run tour. Like, the NBA is not a players-run league, even though they do run the league, right? So, but can you imagine Torrey Pines, San Diego, if the featured group is just Bryson, Brooks, and honestly, you could throw in a random guy. You don't even need another star. It'd
be pretty awkward for whoever that other person is. Like, I would say, to be fair to the third person, you almost need somebody who, like, wouldn't care, is maybe somebody like DJ who just wouldn't care.
I think you could throw Phil in there pretty seamlessly. Friends with them both.
Would Phil just make fun of the whole thing?
But
problem is Brooks would get, it's like, wait, I got to wait for Phil, and I got to wait.
Like, I get Tiger and Phil. Like, Tiger is not going to want to play with Phil, right? Or you would never do anything in Tiger's heyday that would make him uncomfortable. You just wouldn't. I mean, it would be stupid for business, right? Just like back in the day with Pete Sampras or Roger Federer, like, you're placating to them. Bryson and Brooks ain't big enough stars to dictate anything. You have to do it sooner or later, right? That you got to put these two guys. You lean into it. One of them would have to kind of want it. Like, does Brooks want it? Like, I can get the mental edge.
The beauty would be if
who do you think would not want it the most? Because it feels like Bryson would probably want to avoid.
I think Brooks would want it less. I think Brooks is pretty unflappable, and he clearly gets under his skin.
So maybe you're right. Bryson would want it. Brooks plays fast. Bryson plays slow.
I think Brooks would hate it more than Bryson, because if you watch Bryson, like Bryson's not the guy at your Muni who like looks over his shoulder and cares that somebody's in the fairway waiting for him.
No, he's
like,
in his own little
most
world.
normal people uncomfortable. It doesn't.
He's in his own world. Yeah.
And even Brooks playing with Phil, who's like you could tell it wasn't even Phil's fault, but there was some stuff that was just slowing him down. It's just not Brooks' thing. I think it'd be really hard for him. And
don't you think golf should really lean into this, though? I mean, I think you got a lot of casual people.
Curtis in the chat says the tour made Twitter take the video down. If that's the case, okay. But to me, they still secretly love it, even if they have to publicly pretend like they don't. They secretly love it. And it's what any sport wants. It's what baseball wants. It's what the NBA would love for two of its stars to openly and not tweet shit at each other, like openly, like that. He just looked at him and rolled his eyes as the guy walked by and just was like,
well, two American players who are elite, right? And now Brooks has pelts on the wall. To me, it validates a little more that Bryson won a major. Bryson's clearly a dominant player. The thing with golf, though, like they're going to have to play together. Like these guys are going to be on the President Cup together. The Ryder Cup is this fall. Like those two guys aren't like captain's picks. Like they're locks. I mean, they're
right. Steve doesn't get to.
Yeah, those two guys are on the team. Our team, the chemistry, Patrick Reed's borderline locked too. Like we got some weird shit going on.
Yeah, we're gonna need another David Duval pep talk.
Yeah, to me, I saw that like should Phil Mickelson get on the thing? I think you might just bring Phil because you got some explosive personalities. Like, it's not like JT and DJ ain't holding these guys' hands, so at least Phil's like everyone just calm down.
JT's got his own stuff to worry about.
Would you put Phil on the team?
Yes, I would.
Like if you told me Phil got on the team over even like a Xander or something, I'd be like, yeah, Xander will have his time.
Well, does Phil keep playing like this? The other thing, does Phil just maintain some top 20s?
Honestly, I don't even know if it would matter. Like I just know that he might be able to show up. I mean, if he was terrible, yeah. But if
Phil
he
is one of the great, just head-to-head golf players of all time.
I'm putting him on the squad.